Welcome back to Nightcap Chat, the pop culture podcast talk all things comic books, video games, movies, TV shows, and more. Today we are talking all the Disney Investor Day announcements about Marvel. I'm Blade O'Neill.
I'm Lassen.
And joining us once again is Steve.
I like to show up and disrupt your guys' perfectly tuned show with my nonsense. So thanks again for having me on. And also, I want to point out this is the first time I've been on with Lance in quite some time. And the last time was I was wearing a Celtics jersey. It was early in the summer and very early in the pandemic. It was when you stole all of my movie picks for, I think, best on-screen chemistry. So thank you for the invite and glad to be on with you guys.
Yes, and thank you for bringing your nonsense.
We got an ample supply.
We had a big news week last week, but before we dive into all that, just want to thank you all for taking the time to listen to Nightcap Chat. And if you do enjoy it, share it on social media. We're at Nightcap Chat on Twitter and Facebook, and Nightcap_chat on Instagram. If you do also enjoy the show, leave those reviews wherever you're listening to it. Thumbs up on YouTube, 5 stars on iTunes. That helps provide a lot of opportunities for us to have those reviews in there. So thank you all. And if you did sign up for our Christmas lists, our Christmas card list, those are now closed, and I've got them all, and I have the cards, and then I'm going to be sending them out, well, I guess tomorrow, so that's today of the day that you are hearing this. All right. So let's start with some Marvel. I'm trying not to let this go too far over, so we're going to go right into it.
I'll jump right in real quick to say, what's a marvel to me is the fact that I really wanted to do so I listen to your guys' show the day that they come out. My week is based upon it, and when I see you doing your live show on Facebook and I miss it, I'm really angry. So I wanted to go back a few episodes ago when you guys did the superhero one. You did your the top 10, and the way that Lance started the show is so in the realm of Lance, I can't even explain it, because a couple of weeks before we started the hashtag Lance is a genius, which has been proven factually multiple times. But this show started with my favorite comment of all time, and it was where he goes, you guys talk a lot about your picks. I just tell you who mine are because I know they're right. And it was like a mic drop, a podcast mic drop like I've never heard. And he was like, you guys can talk all you want. My picks are correct, and that's all I have to say. I laughed so hard. So, Lance, nicely done. It made me laugh really hard and also statistically factual. So thank you for that.
I barely remember that. That was a jam-packed recording session. I mean,
yeah.
I think both of those episodes were about an hour and a half. So we sat there for 3 hours and just went through it.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Ken had some passionate opinions to rebunk and go back and forth. So it was a fun listen, and I was educated. I had to come out of it with that quote because I don't know how you start off a show any other way. Like, you guys talk a lot. Mine's fine. I'm done. God, that made me laugh. So Lance, nicely done.
Just justified all of his answers in one fell swoop.
Yeah, that's exactly
the way to go.
Nothing wrong with that.
And to add to the geniusness, don't forget about the movie that I called and created.
Wait, what did you call it?
With Jason Momoa and Peter Dinklage.
Oh my God, you mean the thing that we've been laughing about? Hold on a second. Yeah. This has been the last 6 weeks have been Lance related. So you have that, but you remember how that show you guys were talking about casting for twins?
Yeah, that was my cast. Yeah.
Okay, it was your cast. Then it shifted over to your other thing, which is Van Helsing. And then it started as a joke. And then it was okay, are they really bringing it back? And then it was oh, they're bringing it back with this guy and this guy. And you were like, dude, I called this months and months ago. And I'm like, I know, this is the problem. Is Lance has the insight, man. Hollywood is listening to this show.
That's right.
It just makes me laugh.
I wish it was a sequel or something with actually Hugh Jackman, but I guess
I know.
we'll see what happens. Because obviously, they were trying to do a monster universe, and then they tried again, and now they're trying again. But there's no confidence in it.
you do have to give them credit, though. They are kind of doing something new and I guess kind of unique. If they're going to scrap the dark universe, is what they used to call it in Universal for the hot second that they were trying to redo all the monster movies.
Yeah.
But now they have James Wan producing, and he's a good producer. He's produced a lot of nonsense, and the guy that's directing this one is pretty great. So I don't know. I'm totally on board. I do wish that it was still. We've talked about this before. Hugh Jackman was not the problem with that first movie.
No.
If there even was a problem with it, he was fantastic, to be honest. So I would love to see him come back. But the idea that they're redoing it is, I'm kind of pumped about it because I kind of like the film. It's just, I like Hugh Jackman.
The only thing bad was the acting of the brides of Dracula. And depending on how good of an actress they were, that was the order in which they got killed off. And it's abundantly apparent.
I think we said this, yeah.
But that was the only thing bad about it. I think that just flew under the radar, and I think it was just a consequence of the time. Of all the great movies coming out around that time, it just wasn't happening.
Just to be clear, I don't mean to derail completely. You started with a question about Marvel, and I used the term Marvel as a Lance joke. Yep. And now we're talking about Van Helsing. Yep. So this is probably why I'm only on once a quarter. Thanks again for the invite. And now we can get back to your topic list.
Yes. And what a beautiful segue into the Marvel Studios had lots of announcements. They didn't do it before the Star Wars ones, but I'm going to do the Star Wars ones last. I don't know what the order of these is, so I'm just going to go off of this little list I found. I'm not going to tell you what the list is. But unfortunately, I think this is one of the more exciting ones that we're starting with, and is that we are getting a Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it is
the original family movie.
It is official. I mean, it's been a long time coming, and it's being directed by John Watts, who directed Spider-Man: Homecoming, and I believe Spider-Man: Far From Home, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah.
So to me, that's one hit and one miss. So personally, I'm pretty 50-50 on that. But I can't say I hated Homecoming, though. My expectations were in the wrong place. It was fine. It was fine.
I wouldn't say it was a bad movie. It's just not what I want to watch, because it was to me, that's the Spider-Man: Homecoming was like a teenage musical type, like high school movie, you know what I mean? Like just like something I'm not really interested in. It was well done, but I just don't like, I guess, like kind of like the genre almost they're doing, because a lot of times the Marvel movies, they all have genres to them, right? The next, the Doctor Strange ones are going to be more horror, and Guardians of the Galaxy is more of like a comedy and sci-fi comedy, and that one to me just wasn't like the genre I'm kind of into. But the other Spider-Man movie was great. Thought it was probably, to me, that was the best Spider-Man movie.
Period. The one with Jake Gyllenhaal you like the most? Is that what you're saying? Cool. I don't disagree with that at all. The fact that he is the director of this new one did catch me off guard, because there was a very heavy rumor for the past calendar year, and it isn't over, is that John Krasinski has been having meetings with Marvel executives for a very long time. And the rumor that we heard, or that we were, I'll be honest, just as a fan, crossing our fingers for, was a directorial thing by him, and as well as him starring. And that was that very heavy rumor. So for them announcing this, it caught me way off guard, because he's now a proved director. Quiet Place is fantastic. I challenge anyone to point out one negative thing about that film.
It's too quiet.
That is very true. But I'll tell you, I was expecting that. So now the internet is speaking for me, and they're doing photoshops of John Krasinski wearing the Fantastic Four gear, thinking that that's what they were interviewing him for.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like he's a perfect version of that, in my opinion, for a modern day one. He's well liked. People love him. He's marketable, and he's definitely puts asses in the seats. I was really hoping for something that he was going to make himself, but I'm okay with this too. I really like. I like that you guys don't really like the first Spider-Man, because I really was blown away by it, because I was expecting garbage, and I actually really enjoyed it. So seeing that he's directing this one, I could see your point. I absolutely could see your point, and I'm not disagreeing, but I was expecting. Okay. Side note. I've been deleting all of my Facebook posts because I thought that I had done it years ago, but I'm back now to when this movie came out, and I was like literally saying, I just deleted this post like a day ago, saying, saw the new trailer for Spider-Man Homecoming. I'm going to call it now. Biggest piece of crap of all time, blah, blah, blah. I'm calling it now. I mean, this is something that I wrote in 2016, and I remember seeing it going, okay, it wasn't bad. I actually like that. But I could see people not liking it.
So it's just, I think for me, I think, and for you, it was just all about expectations. Like, I had high expectations and hopes for it. You had low.
100%.
We probably met in the middle kind of a thing.
Yeah, I could see
and
that.
For me, the biggest thing was I was like, I don't know about like the whole high school thing, but I was like, Iron Man's in it, you know, so that Robert Downey Jr. is great. So maybe it'll be awesome. I don't know.
And here's the thing with John Krasinski too, is we know he's auditioned for Marvel projects. There's already a relationship there.
Yeah.
You know, he was up for the role of Captain America. Whether or not he would have been good doesn't matter, because Chris Evans was phenomenal in the role.
Yeah.
So, you know, we see a lot that the movies influence the comics, and John Krasinski has been really big with his beard in some of his, you know, recent films. It's probably not for no reason that all of a sudden Mr. Fantastic has a beard in the comics. You know, like
really interesting. Can
you
imagine that? Okay, so this is just a general question. Do you think that a comic book writer and illustrator would really relate to a physical character as much as where they would start drawing their likeliness to it in their real life?
Yeah,
that's interesting.
That's
they've done been happening.
Yeah. The way these characters have been looking in the movies have informed the comic books instead of vice versa. You know,
wow, that's fascinating.
That's been the trend. And of course, Emily Blunt, she was going to be Black Widow. Yeah. You know, that's John Krasinski's wife. She would be a great Sue Storm. You know, like, and I love Scarlett Johansson. You know, like, she's my number one Hollywood crush. You know, and even with that said, I think she would have been a better Black Widow than Scarlett Johansson. So like, just her joining the MCU would be exciting. But like, if they do, I want them here for the long haul. You know, I want 10 movies with Fantastic Four appearances. Like, let's be in it to win it. You know,
I could see that. Yeah.
As far as Homecoming, I think you guys are right on with the expectations. I just thought this was the first Marvel movie that was part of the MCU, and I wanted I didn't want just a Robert Downey Jr. connection. Like, we already had him in 10 movies. You know, I wanted something more exciting than, I don't know, Vulture.
Right.
Maybe more Easter eggs for what's coming up. I don't know what I wanted. I just wanted more.
And maybe that's why I was okay with it and you guys weren't, is because I was expecting garbage. And when I came out with anything, I was like, okay, cool, this wasn't so bad. There was some really witty dialogue. And I actually ended up falling in love with not only Peter Parker, but his friendships and his relationship with Happy, I thought was fantastic. So I wasn't expecting that because I thought it was going to be the worst thing of all time. But so this director coming over to do this, to me, it just makes sense. It's a true, proven director. Bring him over. He already knows, I hate to say this, the payroll and how it all works over here at the MCU and how they hire their people and how they deal with it. So I know that there's a risk involved when hiring a first timer or someone new to the industry. We've learned that with Marvel, Ant-Man,
Iron Man
learned
3,
it with Star Wars, and Solo. And you know what, though, Iron Man 3 is such a risky move, and I don't know. Anyway, my point is very valid. You take unique filmmakers, and it doesn't always sync up. Yeah. So to me, this was kind of, I guess you could say, a no-brainer, but also, I hate to use this term, there's no real like matzah to it. There's no balls. There's no real like edgy move. I love the idea of taking a first timer for a new, a new franchise coming out.
But this isn't a new franchise. This is the safe bet because we had the original one and the second one didn't go so well. And then they rebooted it and blew it. So they're like, we cannot blow this. Like,
okay,
we need to not blow this.
So your point is that we've had a successful run, a failure, and now we need to make it
a successful run in the era of the campier Marvel films.
Okay, you know what I mean. I mean more financially, because at this point they're literally looking at dollars and cents. Yeah. So you're bringing in someone that's proven. I could see that, but also as a fan, you would never. Okay, your point is very valid, but that also goes back to the point. they would never have hired James Gunn to make Guardians. His last film was Slither and Super. Those are not Marvel caliber films.
Yep.
And they took a risk, and it freaking worked. It worked brilliantly and changed the future of Marvel. And I love that idea of being organic and changing how it goes.
I think it's a little bit different because Guardians, it didn't matter what. I mean, like,
because it was a gamble in general, just because people weren't familiar with the characters.
Well, these were like C-list characters as opposed to the Fantastic Four. So they were just going to do whatever was cool anyway. And I would also argue that they've let the reins off of James Gunn now. But I bet on the first one, they were watching and making sure that this was going to work within the universe. And you know, I mean, he had a lot to do with the decisions and everything, like especially the soundtrack and whatever. But there were certain things that couldn't be derailed, like Drax having to go after Thanos. Like they needed to make sure that he didn't ruin it for the MCU. Matters a little less now. So I just think it's a little different.
And I appreciate that totally. And that's kind of my view. Is I don't read the comics. I'm a movie guy, and I follow a lot of the screenwriters and the production companies, and more importantly, the directors, because they have a lot of taste. A lot of the directors today kind of do a milquetoast MCU version, and this, I would say, is one of those people. And there's nothing really that fantastic or unique about the Spider-Man films that he's made. I see your eyes really big. The only thing I'm saying is he makes a very palatable film, but he has no real like unique taste. The last time they had this, they had what's his name was going to make Ant-Man, and they fired him because he was too much of himself. And then the same thing happened with Solo. They had Chris Lord and Phil Miller making Solo, and then the day before their screenwriting credit got done, they fired them because it was coming off too much like them. They needed to mesh, and I get that idea. I just kind of like the idea of somebody new coming in. What's his name? Ryan Coogler made Black Panther, and that to me was like, how is Ryan Coogler going to make an MCU film? And it worked.
Sure.
So I love the idea of somebody new coming in. So now it's just me whining about my tastes here. So I apologize for ranting.
I think that it's a great fit because it's a family movie, and just like the previous Spider-Man movies where you had the relationship with Robert Downey Jr., you had the relationship with Spider-Man and Aunt May, and he had the relationship with his friends, and it's just like the Fantastic Four where they have that bond. There's that whole relationship with, you know, Mr. Fantastic and Susan Storm and Johnny Blaze. I think it's just like a great fit.
Johnny Storm.
What did I say?
Johnny Blaze.
Johnny
Blaze. I like that too. That's a new character.
Well, that's Ghost Rider, but
that's Ghost Rider. Yeah.
I mean, it's almost more fitting for Human Torch.
That's a good point, actually. I kind of take back my whole thing before. I do like that analogy. It does make sense. And maybe that's why they chose him. It's an easy pick. He knows how to do this.
It might be a safe pick.
True. Not easy, safe. Yeah. And I feel like they're going safe right now. Maybe not. I don't know. They're doing some interesting things, though. We'll get to them in a minute.
Yep. All right. So these next two, I think, are going to be pretty easy to blow through. They announced Captain Marvel 2, which we knew was coming. I would say, you know, hopefully Brie Larson's using her time wisely and maybe got some acting lessons, but with seeing her new car commercial, that apparently is not the case. So her acting is going to be just as good as a cardboard box in this one, probably too. Which leads us right into they're doing Ms. Marvel. Lance is making faces if anyone cares, but we're not talking about Captain Marvel 2 anymore. They're doing Ms. Marvel. I didn't watch the trailer. You know, it's related right to Captain Marvel. I'm sure she's going to make a great Kamala Khan.
All right, next.
No interest in the character. All right. Now I lost my list, so that's good.
Not to be a jerk, I have 0.0% interest in this character or the storyline. And that's not just like a predetermined I'm an ass kind of guy, like, oh, he's a jerk. I've only heard people that have played the game that said that she's an unlikable and it's a waste of a character. I just don't care.
Okay.
It's just not in my wheelhouse.
If you want to talk about the game, like I'm like 2 hours deep in that game, and I was ready to throw my controller through the screen because I was tired of being forced to play as Kamala Khan. I just wanted to play as literally anybody else. Like I just wanted to get to the point, and I felt like it was forced on me. and I just wanted to play as
just,
Black Widow or something, you know, or anybody else. Like, it was just so annoying.
That's literally the only thing I've heard from people is a variation of that.
Well, I'm
which
glad
is why I never bought it.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one. I need to pick it back up because I barely started.
And I really want to play it.
Let's do it. Okay, I
already beat the game.
I know, it's unbelievable. Okay, up next, let's do Secret Invasion with Samuel L. Jackson and Ben Mendelsohn returning as Nick Fury and Talos the Skrull. Interesting. The big comic book event Secret Invasion is being relegated to a Disney Plus show. I think that's interesting, and obviously this is going to be a watered down version of Secret Invasion.
I just don't. So there's so many like question marks going into this because one, we don't know really when it takes place because it could have taken place in the 90s or the 2000s or now or in the
anything
future.
Up until like 2025, really.
Right. It could anytime. So we don't know if this is a prequel, sequel, or what.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And is this?
You kind of have to ask that question with a lot of these ones at the time frame.
Oh, yeah.
That's really interesting. Same thing, especially because we're going to go into Star Wars in a minute. You really have to know where in the hell
and they're
the
saying
time frame is. That's a good point, Lance.
And the description says the storyline's gonna have repercussions on every nook and cranny of the 616 universe.
So that's
wait a second, the 616 universe. That doesn't make sense. Yeah, that's not right. I'm reading something off of comicbookcbr.com, so they could have screwed that up. Whatever. I'm sure this is a reference to the MCU.
So, I mean, yeah, you can just depending on when it takes place, is it going to be like, hey, Black Widow was never the Black Widow like we knew of? It was actually a Skrull or whatever. Like, there's so many different like variables that can happen now.
Yeah,
they can go anywhere with it. And is it going to be something that's super serious and dark where it's like, oh, there's these Skrulls are taking over, or is it more of like Samuel Jackson's going out and he has his teammate and he's a Skrull and he's going to be just camouflaging himself as other people and it's just going to be like weird, you know what I mean? Like, it could be anything. We don't know. They haven't said enough.
So as a movie guy and not a comic book guy, I have to say, you can ask any of my friends or go back to any of the decades of podcasts that I've done. I've had one pet peeve. Actually, I've had a multiple pet peeves, but my number one is I hate fake faces. Mission Impossible did it. Charlie's Angels did it. And then you end up being like, oh, who was this person the whole time, blah, blah, blah. So, Lance, what you just described is my nightmare. Because it's like, I hate the idea that the whole season I was invested in these three people, and at one point in time, that wasn't that person because they had a realistic face. I hate that. But that's as a movie guy, and I get your point. I don't like that at all.
You're gonna hate Secret Invasion.
This does not sound like something I'm gonna be really.
Here's the thing. And maybe this will help make you feel a little better. I totally see what you mean by like being invested in the plot points, especially in movies and stuff. But I think it's a little different when you're talking about like all these comic book stories. Like, there's an infinite amount of comic book stories, or seemingly infinite. I mean, this was a story that's going to happen, and for a comic book trope, I think it's fine. You know,
I think that comic books go into more detail so you get a better idea. In a movie, I hate the idea that for 2 hours, an hour and 30 minutes, I thought that this person was this, and then they pull off the mask. Or in an integral scene, Tom Cruise realizes that he's not Tom Cruise, or vice versa. It always makes me nuts. And again, this goes back to when I was like 20. Yeah. I just hated that trope. It was a gimmick that I hated because then no one's ever really dead. This happened in Halloween H2O, which was my favorite sequel. It wasn't Michael Myers. It was somebody else with a mask. I'm like, no, stick with your character. I just hate that.
But have you had a 10-year gimmick? 10 years worth. Was it different if it's 10 years worth of a character that you've invested?
Sure.
I'm kidding.
10 years of believing that guy was this and it's really this, then I'm really out. I'm done, you guys. I will go back. I just can't do it. No, please, Lance, don't say that there's a 10-year gimmick. If I find out that the whole time one of the Avengers wasn't the Avenger, I'll be pissed and I'm done.
Yes, and I completely agree with that. Like with a a very specific amount of them, like especially like Captain America and Iron Man, and this is going to kind of bridge me into one of my next things here. I hate to say this. Feel free to disagree with me, but do you guys think this was a missed opportunity to use as a jumping off point to recast Chadwick Boseman?
Well, yes and no. I'll just jump on this. Yes, it was a good opportunity. No, you can't do it. And I think they made the right choice. And they clearly said that they're not recasting him. I don't know where they're going to go. You guys probably have a better idea. I always thought that Shuri was the perfect shoe-in for the next character. I fell in love with her in the first time I saw her. She was great and funny. But to your point, that's an interesting point. I don't really know how that would play.
I feel like it can't be him because with Shuri's technology and the way she like scans people, there's no ways that it would ever get past.
I'm not saying it is. I was just asking if you thought it was a missed opportunity to be like, hey, we're doing this. Like I don't think it's going to be him at all.
And I do think he will be recasted in Black Panther 3.
We're having nothing but technical difficulties here.
It's more of a Blade thing,
and I never.
Blade, every time you drop off, Lance and I have a great conversation. I saw his cats, and
now we're talking about Black Panther, so it's going to be another cat-related thing. So, what were you saying about Black Panther?
I was saying that I don't think that they will be recasting him for. They said specifically that we will not be recasting Chadwick Boseman or Black Panther, I should say, for Black Panther 2, but they didn't say for the future. They just said Black Panther 2. So I think that there will be a recast maybe for Black Panther 3, and they're just not comfortable with doing it so soon because it is a little soon, I think, to do that.
Way too soon.
And I think they could maybe infuse it somehow to explain why he's not around for the meantime. I don't know.
They've got some clever screenwriters over there, and I think that you nailed it. They were very specific on the fact that he wasn't going to be back for the sequel. Number 3, which is barely even in the glimpse of their future right now. I think you're right on, and it's going to go a different direction. Also, real quick before we go on, Blade, I know you're trying to tighten it up. You know what I found interesting? Do you see Dave Bautista's quote about Guardians of the Galaxy 3? It directly relates to this, and it kind of melts my heart just because I'm a Guardians. Everything in my house is Guardians. You should see my downstairs. It's a whole thing. It's my favorite. And Dave Bautista just did a quote this week that said, I've seen the script to Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and it breaks my heart that we're not going to get Chadwick Boseman because they're going to have to rewrite it. Meaning that he was going to be a part of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And while I assume that it was a smaller role, it definitely means that James Gunn had to go and retool the script. This came from, you can Google this. He just said this. And it kind of hurts because I feel like the Guardians is such a cool group where you can bring in people like Thor and Mantis and all these other people and make it work. Black Panther to me in that group seems so great. And again, it just sucks so bad that he's not here anymore.
Yeah.
And it would have been such a cool thing to see them work together.
Yeah. With the like seriousness of T'Challa, but like him still being able to like joke around with the Guardians would have been like some great cinematics. Yeah,
you just nailed exactly my thought. That's honestly, it kind of, I don't want to see it so dramatically. It didn't choke me up, but I was like, damn, that was such a missed opportunity to see what Lance just explained, the seriousness of T'Challa, which the goofiness of Star-Lord and Drax, and then you have Groot and Rocket. The group together it just has comedy and sweetness written all over it. So it kind of sucks that was something that was released.
I mean, absolutely heartbreaking. Like I understand why people feel it's too soon, but I mean, there's still plenty of T'Challa stories to do before we pass on the Black Panther mantle. So I do hope that somebody does get to play T'Challa before we move on to some of these other great stories, like Shuri taking on the mantle as well. But on to more light-hearted affair, pun intended. They announced Ironheart.
All right, skip. Next. Nobody cares.
Well, glossing over it, yes. Riri Williams, live-action Marvel debut.
Horrible,
I'm sure it will be fine.
I'm seriously, no, hold on. What a horrendous idea. Like literally the dumbest thing Marvel's ever said. I'd rather Howard the Duck have a movie than
Wow, that's pretty
them
bad.
waste their time with Riri Willie. Like Riri, are you kidding me? One, she's a horrible written character. Two, Iron Man literally just died. You have to replace him with somebody else. Give me a break. Nobody wants this. Nobody asked for this. Move on. Do something with War Machine. Like, give me a break.
I'll give you that. War Machine should have been like the next thing. But speaking of that, that's another perfect segue. They announced Armor Wars, which Lance is also upset about because it's our Armor Wars without Iron Man.
Yeah, what is
Armor
that?
Wars is also a big.
He's not around. What is Armor Wars without Iron Man? What's that? There's something wrong with that sentence.
Here's the thing.
Armor Wars.
Here's the thing with this announcement too. They kind of started to do Armor Wars in Iron Man 2 without really doing it.
Yeah.
So what is this? Because like that's essentially what that was the general idea with Hammer making the suits, and then the Russian guy. Oh, he stole my idea.
Yeah.
It was Armor War for, at least that's how I took it, as like them doing Armor Wars, but now they're doing
their cinematic
Armor
version.
Wars.
Yeah.
So apparently this is going to be different.
Well, I guess we'll see, it's a War Machine story. You know how he said in Age of Ultron where, they're making fun of him for he's telling a story and Thor goes, "Oh, is that it?" And he's just like, it's a War Machine story. I guess maybe we're going to get one of those. So that's kind of cool.
I'm looking forward to it. Don Cheadle is great as War Machine. I liked what's his face too. So like I had a hard time accepting that at first. But he needs more of a spotlight because he's a really good actor, and I don't think he's really had an opportunity to shine, quite frankly.
I think he's a great actor. I definitely prefer oh my gosh, the name of the first guy's escaping me. I definitely liked him more.
Terrence Howard.
Thank you.
It was escaping me too.
He was great. I loved him for it, and I know there was a whole financial issue, but I really wish it was him instead, because I think he personifies the character way better.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I almost said Chadwick. Oh my gosh. Don Cheadle is a phenomenal actor. I loved him in
any of the Oceans movies.
Yes, he was great.
Yeah, Don Cheadle is fantastic. You know what though? I'm sick of being on shows with Lance where he steals my exact thought. Dude, you and I have the same movie taste, by the way. Like, this is weird. Terrence Howard is fantastic, and I was so upset by the shift, except for the fact that they shifted to another actor that I liked a lot. Don Cheadle's great. Yeah. But to your point, I'm a huge Terrence Howard fan.
Either way, it should be great.
It's another topic that Lance agrees with me on. See, if we were going to do another show where it was him or that, he would have stolen that one for me too. Do you remember when he stole Good Will Hunting from me? How ridiculous is that? It's so annoying.
But you know what, Steve? It's not your fault.
Oh, get the hell out of here. Oh, not okay.
It's not your fault.
It's not your fault, Steve.
Shut up, Lance.
So, I don't know why, but they announced the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special that nobody asked for. But I think Steve's going to be excited.
I didn't ask for it, but I'm straight up involved, and I love it. Do you see his follow-up? He goes, and I unironically love the Star Wars holiday special.
So it's going to be something
James
like
Gunn
that.
said that. Bring it on. Yeah. I'm down for whatever. But then again, you could print anything Guardians of the Galaxy on it. Not only will I pay for it, I'll pay double the next person, and I will frame it and hang it in my bathroom with my other shrine of Guardian stuff, and I'll be happy about it. So bring on the holiday special. I'm more excited, though, about this spring, these short films that are going to be called I Am Groot. And it's a short film series, kind of like what I imagine, which is a similar version of Forky's. Forky Ask a Question. It's a bunch of series of shorts, and it's going to be about Groot. So Baby Groot will be a part of that, and I could not be more excited for that.
Okay. And I want to say that's animated, right?
Yeah.
Or am I assuming? Yeah. So whatever, it's for kids. It'll be fine. We'll watch it. We'll enjoy
dumb.
it.
It's something. It's a throwaway thing to watch on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And I don't say throwaway isn't it's bad. It just means you can burn off all of it in 18 minutes.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Next big thing was they announced the title of the next Ant-Man movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. and it's going to have Kang the Conqueror. Jonathan Majors is officially confirmed for Kang the Conqueror. Now, great. I'm excited on board, but gosh, I think Steve, you're the first person to point this out to me. Like, what a dumb name.
I hate the name. I love every casting. I just hate the title so much.
What does that mean?
It's so dumb.
Because I think they're just trying to be smart by saying instead of the quantum realm, it's going to be crazy, and they're trying to use mania, so they're just making like quantum mania.
I would have loved the quantum realm. I would have been like, oh, awesome! I'm so
think
excited.
They're just trying to play off of
the lightheartedness.
They're trying to play off of Paul Rudd's Ant-Man, and it's just like something he would say. It's quantum mania. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of where they're trying to capsule.
I fear as much. It's a time heist. You know, I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree. I hate that's the title. I just hate it.
It's a bad name, but it's going to be huge. I mean, it's going to be about
absolutely
so much. There's going to be so much into it. I mean, Kang's
and the cast is fantastic. I'm just very curious, as the rest of the world is, why Catherine Newton, which is an actress that I have adored since she was in a really garbage version of Paranormal Activity, and she was just in Freaky. So she's a fantastic actress. They recasted her character. Scott Lang's daughter is now, and I forget her name, I apologize, is her. And while Catherine Newton is super popular right now, she looks so completely different than the girl from Endgame. I just don't understand why they did that. And there are reports about why, but the major point is that Catherine Newton is the young actress right now. And while I could not disagree with that at all, because she's on every HBO show that matters. She's fantastic. She's borderline Emmy nominated. She's great. But I don't understand. Endgame wasn't that long ago, and I just don't get it. So Catherine Newton's fantastic. I love her in the role. I just don't know why you have to recast.
That is weird.
Like a mutant.
She's Skrull.
Different timeline.
It
She's
could.
Skrull.
Okay, at this point, I can't tell if you guys are joking or not. Either way, it's weird, and all I know is that Catherine Newton is playing Ant-Man's daughter now instead of the girl that was her in Endgame.
It is weird, but I will admit, once I sat down, if no one pointed that out to me, once I sat down to watch this movie, I would not have said, that's not who played his adult daughter at the end of Endgame. I couldn't even tell you.
And you know what? Maybe they're playing off of that exact mindset, and that's okay. You really, who the hell am I to judge? I don't really care. I'm happy with it because I love Catherine Newton. I think she's fantastic, but also it's just like I just don't know why sometimes they choose those things. It's like, do they just choose for marketing? No continuality? I just don't know. Maybe there's something to it. Like Lance just made a joke a second ago. Maybe it's a different realm. Who the hell knows what's going on? I don't think that it's a Skrull. And if it's a Skrull, I'll be so pissed. But this is my point. If everybody's a Skrull, then nobody's a Skrull, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of is, and I don't want to say anything bad about the actress, but is maybe they wanted her role to be bigger and they weren't comfortable with who was already there to do a bigger role, or maybe she wasn't interested in doing such a big role, so that's why they had to recast it. It's possible.
And I don't disagree with that. She's very palatable for a big role. Blade, who's the guy, the girl that they've been showing? We're big fans of her here. Of course, I don't remember her name. The one that's filming the show with the bow and arrow right now. Oh my god, I am so. Hawkeye show. She plays what's her name. They snuck her in, and she's kind of the same age group. Haley Steinfeld is playing what's her name, and I'm so bad at names. This is something that's very unique to Steve, as I don't remember anybody. Kate Bishop, thank you. So maybe it's what you're saying is you have to be built for a longer longevity as far as feature films, and you could be right on, because Catherine Newton definitely is. She's done this forever. She's in all these HBO series. You could be right on. Again, I'm sorry to distract from the show. I found it really bizarre that they would recast, but I have no problem with it because I like her so much.
I mean, to me, it's inconsequential to who plays that role. And like I said, I wouldn't have even noticed. But you mentioned the Hawkeye thing. Like, we got some new looks at her as Kate Bishop, and that's great. I don't know if they showed a trailer, but I did not watch it because I want to be surprised.
They did not.
And that's
the only thing we've seen from the Hawkeye show was the stills from behind the scenes.
Yeah,
so and again, I'm sorry if I detracted from your topic. I just thought it was an interesting thing because
this is all the topic.
Who the hell recast somebody after they've already been in there? It's weird.
And that covers the announcements, but they also showed the new Loki trailer, which looked
Oh my
amazing.
God, I am shot out of a cannon about that. Real quick. Is that Black Widow or not?
No, it's not Black Widow. No.
No?
Nope.
It is.
Why?
No, it's not. Look
Did they say it wasn't?
Look at the screenshot, and we know that Sophia D, whatever her name is cast in this film, and the leaked set photo shows that same exact haircut. If that is Black Widow in the Soul Stone, her hair is wrong. This is Sophie.
What character is she? I don't understand.
So the leaked set photos showed her, Sophia Di Martino. She's in a coat, but if you look underneath, it's a very similar outfit to what Loki was wearing in one of the other movies, and everyone's thinking it was Lady Loki. And I thought Lady Loki sounds like a stupid idea. Yeah. So I don't understand why people don't think she's Enchantress, who is blonde. Because if she was Lady Loki, why wouldn't her hair be dark? But right. Sophia Martino's hairstyle is that same exact length as that lady we're seeing there in the little purple area.
Yeah.
Black Widow had that long red and
up in the sky glowing. Yeah.
With whatever it was. I mean, I'm not even sure if that's what it is now.
It could be. Who the hell knows what it is?
And here's the thing. Marvel will change things for the trailer. So whatever we're seeing in the trailer doesn't even matter. Yeah. The whole background could be different for all we know. And we're sitting here getting hung up on whether or not it's Black Widow, but it's actually probably just this girl. And she looks really skinny. I don't know if that's Scarlett Johansson's body. She looks really thin.
That could have been in Tempe. Who the hell knows? You're totally right. They change stuff all the time, and I don't know. I kind of felt like it was a red herring. That definitely on a quick glance and that first trailer looked like her. Also, the trailer started off very reminiscent of the Force Awakens trailer with him waking up in sand, and like this deserted sort of, Tatooine-ish, sort of thing. And then I am smitten with this trailer, and I know we have to move along, but I loved it, and it got me really jacked for the future of what the MCU is bringing.
Well, there's some parallelism to that scene as well, of him in the sand and him sitting up, to the beginning of Iron Man 1 when Tony escapes. He lands in some sand in his crappy armor and sits up. It's very similar. The Mark 1 armor, I should say.
There you go.
So how about the DB Cooper reference of him? I didn't even catch it until someone pointed out. So for those of you who don't know, DB Cooper was this mysterious man who, was able to get, a $200,000, not ransom, but like a, what do you call it? He extorted $200,000 in ransom. And then he was able to escape on a plane, and like halfway through the flight, he jumps out of the plane and nobody knows who this guy is. Like, this is an unsolved mystery. Now that's why Loki was sitting there dressed as DB Cooper and wearing the sunglasses and everything. And he jumps out of a plane, effectively making it that Loki was behind this whole DB Cooper thing that actually happened in real life. But what a wonderful explanation that it was just Loki this whole time. So how is that going to play into the show? Like, is that a major plot point, or is this a throwaway thing that they came up with?
I think it definitely tells you that he's going to be jumping around in different timelines, right?
Yeah, because this happened. He disappeared in 1971. He can go anywhere because the Time Variance Authority captured him.
Right.
So in theory, they can go anywhere because they exist outside of time. So now he's like, he takes over. And now is Kang going to get pissed? And this is why we already have Kang cast within the MCU, because he's going to be showing up in like half of these things.
Yeah, and it's probably why all these weird things are going to start happening, like the Spider-Man movie, where all these casting rumors have now seemingly come to fruition, where we're going to have Doc Ock and all these other characters from Spider-Man movies.
And Electro, the other ones. Yeah,
it's going to be crazy. So it's just going to mess with everything.
There, all
I
kinds
even
of
read
things are being
today
messed
that the
with.
rumor is that they could be seeing Miles Morales in an animated version, which would make sense if you actually paid attention to the
Wow.
other version,
No
which
thanks.
is you could bounce between. And I honestly, at this point, the most successful franchise there would be Spider-Verse, right? I
Right.
mean, so why wouldn't you want to dip your toe into that? Except also, I don't know if they want to dip their toe into what you're into. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like they've got something working. I don't necessarily know if they want to touch what's potentially a disaster. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But it's interesting as hell to me. All of it's fascinating. And it's one of those things that I've always said wasn't going to work for the MCU. Speaking as a movie going fan, multiple universes has been the DC thing forever. And I used to fight with my old best friend Steve about this all the time. I don't really know if that's palatable for the typical viewer. Remembering which one is which, and we saw this one. Remember, he was in that one, and I think that's why the first MCU worked so well, is because it was so linear. But you know what? At this point, that ship has sailed. We're looking into different universes, and I'm pumped for it. I'm just very curious to see where it goes.
I love.
Do you guys get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I love that you said that, because I always argued that the way DC's been doing it in the shows and movies anyway, like they're all over the place, and they jumped to that way too quickly. Marvel was like, this is our universe. There are many like it, but this one is mine. And it took them 10 years before they even mentioned it. And now it's something that's slowly being introduced, and it's very clear, or it seems like it's going to be very clear. This is the regular MCU, and the all their alternate timelines and whatever are also going to be very clear. I think they took their time to explain, to make sure everything is understood by the general audience before jumping into it. So I think they're handling it very well so far.
Yeah, I agree. I just think DC just they had some flops, and they were trying to fix it by like, oh well, this isn't the guy, so it's a different universe, and they just ruined it. They jumped
now here's
way
another
too
Batman.
quickly. Yeah, they jumped way too quickly at just doing multiverse stuff, and it's just you need to have a good A, B, and C before you do D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, P.
And the multiverse makes it very complicated. As long as they have it written out and they understand it, then I'm down. It's so different from what we're used to. Right. You know what I mean? Where everybody else is on the same playing field. Now you're asking viewers to understand and welcome multiple universes and multiple Spider-Man and multiple this. And at this point, is Spider-Man dead here? Is he not? Is Iron Man still here? Can he come into your universe? It's asking viewers a lot to understand that aren't used to the comic book world of being organic and accepting everything. And right. I kind of feel like that's a huge hurdle for the typical viewer to get over. And while I think like they can, it's definitely going to be it's not going to be an easy thing. There's no way that that's an easy hurdle. You're going to lose people no matter what. I mean, like my mom and dad, they love the Marvel movies. As soon as you try to tell them that this is a different universe, they're going to be like, okay, cool, we're done. I don't really care anymore. And I think you're going to lose a kind of group on that, and whatever.
I think that's what Spider-Man 3 is going to end up being, is like, hey, Sony's going to go over here and do whatever they want, and we're still going to have our own stuff. And like, that's all this is going to turn out to be.
And maybe that's the better move. Maybe there's going to be one pilot film or franchise that sets off a whole universe, right? And that's how it goes. And then from here on out, you can always say, oh, well, we saw this, we get this and whatever. It's just different from comics, because comic book people understand that. Moviegoers don't. And it's going to be a tough sell. And if you have one pilot that does it, I believe that'll work.
Sure.
So hopefully that works.
I have faith. Last Marvel thing, of course, to touch on, and I intentionally did not watch the trailer because I'm so stoked for this, is probably what I'm most stoked for, aside from the Doctor Strange movie, is the WandaVision. There's a new trailer.
Oh my God.
I only saw a couple screenshots and I was already like frothing at the mouth. Like, I'm so ready for this show. My goodness. How about in the poster too? It looks like we're going to have a proper Scarlet Witch costume hidden in one of those TVs.
They've released a new poster every single day for the past week with a different variation of the background and the TV set up in front of them. Wow. So when you look at them all together, it's such a beautiful marketing campaign. I can't even tell you how pumped we are for WandaVision. It's so bizarre. I'm pumped for every second of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be so good. And I don't know. I mean, it's just gonna be. I think it's gonna be the best Disney Plus show by far. I don't think it's gonna be close.
Mandalorian close. I mean,
It'll be better than Mandalorian.
that's awesome. I love that you say that. I mean,
he doesn't
these
like
trailers
Mandalorian as much as like I do.
Oh,
I think
I
it's
really do.
good. I just think it's gonna blow it out of the water. I think it's gonna be one of the best shows. Period.
That's awesome.
I mean, I think it's gonna be amazing.
That's
in my
great.
opinion.
I love that, dude, and I could not agree. Blake, this is that thing I was talking about. Like, talk about an organic thing. Who the hell would have thought that a show called WandaVision, based on some bizarro like 50s and 60s world with all of this stuff would work? It is working, and it looks so freaking good. Which is why I think that you need to give viewers the benefit of the doubt. A lot of these things are palatable.
It shouldn't work, but I'm so stoked.
It is going to.
It's going to
work.
Because it's House of M.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's fantastic, and I cannot freaking wait. Our whole family is pumped for it.
Yeah. I can't wait to do the WandaVision episode once they have all aired. Like I'm gonna have a hard time not doing more than one, just because I'm so excited. You know, it's been hard to wait to do the Mandalorian, especially this season. It's it's gonna be even harder.
Also, my wife has a pseudo crush on Scarlet Witch, like to a really creepy level. So I have to compete with that. So the fact that Vision's on my side, bring it on.
There you go. We got Paul Bettany.
Yes.
All right. So, I said Fantastic Four is my favorite thing. I totally forgot they announced a Blade movie, and that was my favorite thing because that was the only thing I wanted, and I was so stoked. More specifically, because it was a movie. I wanted Blade to be a movie.
I mean, that's what you got.
That's what I got.
It's gonna be awesome. I think.
Yes.
I mean, it will be awesome, 100%.
I mean, Mahershala Ali is a phenomenal actor. He's no stranger to the MCU, which does make it weird. But Luke Cage wasn't that great, so we can just pretend none of that happened, and he's going to be a great Blade. He was the best character in that Luke Cage show. Like, I mean, he made that show. I'm excited it's a movie because it's going to have movie level importance and threats. And what was the other thing we didn't mention?
The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah. I mean, they showed a trailer, and once again, like, I just didn't want to watch it because I just want to be surprised.
It was a little underwhelming, though. I will say that it didn't, like, it showed, like, their relationship, like, but we already know kind of the relationship from Civil War. Like, they kind of like goof around almost a little bit, like they have a little banter, but they're, they get things done. It looks interesting. It's just they didn't. I felt like the trailer just showed like, a couple action scenes, but they're hiding so much more because like it's not like we saw like Abomination or some crazy like villain that like we had no idea was going to be in there. Yeah. So I feel like they're pulling their punches for sure.
And that's fine. Maybe I shouldn't be avoiding the trailers, but like, like I guess I'm afraid that they'll show me too much. I won't be surprised by anything. And I should have a little more faith in Marvel that they're not going to show all the surprises,
Right. Especially since half the trailers are fake anyway.
Yeah. And they do a great job of
so
that.
often.
Because I mean, the surprises are what makes it, But I think that about covers the Marvel stuff for today. Steve, thank you for joining us. Always a pleasure.
Later, guys.
Later.
You can find more on Steve on Callback with Steve and the Mousecast. We'll post some links in the description of this podcast. Lance?
And you can catch me on Twitch at Tales of Lance and on Twitter and Instagram at Tales of Lance. So come out, hang out, play video games, talk, whatever.
Yeah. And, in the comments on social media, like, let us know, like, what were you most excited from the Marvel announcements or just the Disney announcements in general. We have one more episode left in the year. It is our Christmas special 2020. I can't believe we've done this another year. I guess last year wasn't a full year, but here we are, year 2, almost a full year. I think we only skipped 1 week we weren't supposed to. Maybe 2. I don't remember. But we're doing our Christmas special again. Just kind of recapping the year, kind of same thing as last year. Maybe we'll touch on some of these Star Wars and Marvel things a little bit more as well with Ken. Yeah, it's been a crazy ride, and you know, we appreciate all of your support in getting us to this place. I thank you all for listening. We love you. Be safe, and we'll see you all next week.
Every week.